I think data collection is important because there's frankly not enough of it yet in the conflict space. It's something that is certainly growing, and I think people are understanding the importance of it, but it's not something that has been really institutionalized in a lot of places. And what we're doing at ACLED, collecting really rigorous data that people can depend on, I think is a really key element in getting people to then adopt it and use it. So encouraging policymakers, nonprofit organizations, humanitarian organizations to use data, it really starts from a place of having them trust the data, and where that comes from is the really rigorous data collection that ACLED is working on, which is why I think it's so important that we're sort of accomplishing that first step in order to allow people to have this resource to use.
Decisions are being made every day, and they need to be made on solid evidence, because a lot of things in conflict tend to be obscured or counterintuitive if you are just a casual observer or even an observer from one point of view. And the data allows you to sort of take a step back and take that broader view of an entire area or a longer time frame and put things into context. When you are in the throes of a crisis, everything seems extremely severe, but you might also miss some of the details that are different this time. And the data allows you to sort of pick that apart and see the new trends and see the new developments, as well as put those in perspective and know what has increased, what has gotten more severe, and what is actually much more of the same thing that we have already seen before.
Data collection in the fields of conflict is a useful resource for documenting, for providing a visual element, a tangible element to understanding what happens in wars, in conflict, and in all other situations where political violence is rocking a country, a region, or beyond. And the powerful element of providing, again, a numerical sometimes and a tangible element in addition to analysis is a powerful tool that we can provide.
Collecting data on conflict is very important because we need to understand what exactly is going on in order to find a solution for a conflict. For instance, if we have all the data, all the information, all the facts on a specific conflict, we can specifically design a solution which can resolve the conflict and build sustainable peace.
We have a lot of different consumers of data that we are always thinking about when we're making decisions about how we collect the data, how we present the data, what types of information we have. And so the idea is that we have to be really thoughtful and really strategic about engaging in this sort of ecosystem of data producers and data users so that we are making sure that we are sort of maximizing the benefits of all of this hard work that we're doing to collect the data, that it's really meeting the need that we have for informing decision making, for informing how to mitigate the harms of conflict.
So the way that my team works on making ACLED data accessible to the broader public is really twofold. So on the external side, we work on building tools that users can use to interact with the data more effectively. So that means thinking of ways that people can glean insights from the data that doesn't necessarily require them to download an entire data set. So providing tools like the conflict exposure calculator or the ACLED Explorer that allow them to select some filters and quickly see an answer about how many events were in Somalia last month, or how many fatalities did we see in Afghanistan this month as well. So externally, that's what my team works on, and internally, we also work on all the systems that allow ACLED to operate really efficiently and well. So we build different programs and applications for all of our researchers that are located across the globe to be able to submit their information and their data to us every week. We build systems for all of our reviewers and managers to be able to look at that data and really efficiently spot any errors or inconsistencies. And finally, in the sort of final stage where we load the data to our databases and make it available to the public, we go through a really rigorous set of cleaning and error checks to make sure that what the practitioners are seeing, what users are seeing when they download our data is the absolute best that it can be.
So the researchers are a massive team of people that we have all over the world who have been trained and are dedicated to reporting weekly on the events that they've gathered from the source list that we've defined. These include all sorts of different sources in different languages, which they have to read and translate into English in order to code it for ACLED. And there are many times as well that we have researchers operating either within country that they're working on, or they have some sort of connection to that country. So they're able to offer additional insight into specific trends or language that's perhaps used in some of the reports. That allows us to really get a good idea of how to properly code and report on an event because we more accurately understand what is actually happening in that country.
We collect data in conflict-affected countries where it's most of the time very difficult to get information using different sources, like local informats, as well as local partners, other websites, reports, local reports, and from the humanitarian organizations who are actually in these conflict-affected areas. So this is how we collect data, especially where there is information blackout. There is no internet, there is no reporters, so we use the people who are actually present in these conflict-affected areas.
We also have moved somewhat into social media as well, when we're able to find verified media journalists or other sources that perhaps operate on social media for some reason. Either their initial offices as a journalistic group have been shut down and that's the only place that they can operate. Or they're a freelance journalist who does do reports for journals, but also reports on their own time. And then possibly, most importantly, expanding into partnerships with local groups who have some sort of network on the ground and are able to gather information that other sources don't have access to.
Conflict data collection is important when trying to understand complex conflicts. First, it offers a really granular understanding of violence patterns, geographically, over time, and also in terms of the type and nature of violence. Second, it can support development initiatives, also policy making and policy decisions, as it captures key features of violence in a meaningful way, so that governments or humanitarian organizations can really see where action is needed. And last but not least, it also can serve as an early warning indicator of escalation of violence or insecurity or de-escalation or improvement. So basically looking at past trends, which we track, we can help design a model that can predict future trends.
Well, I think data collection is really important to, first of all, gauge or measure the intensity of a conflict, for example, but also to sort of understand and assess its evolution over time, over space, and also to identify its different manifestations, the expressions of violence, but also the actors involved in it, and the evolution over time of what their motives might be or their main areas of operation can be.
Our work in the analysis department at ACLED is to provide the necessary context and explanation for the data that we produce. Is what I like to say often is like translating the numbers into words, and to make sure that the broadest audience and the broadest readership can engage with our data, can understand what the data mean and how the data can explain the many different conflicts and that we examine.